Hey guys, it's Willow. Just before we start, I wanted to say that um, in the story there's going to be a mention about tattoos. There is pictures in the chapter itself, so if you wanted to look at the pictures, then you can just go um, to my account on Wattpad and you can see them. I'll put a link in the description, but I'm not going to describe them. I'm just going to skip that part. So if you want to see what they look like or like read the rest of that little bit, then yeah, go to Wattpad. Alright, moving on. Back from the Dead, Chapter 5. Code 3. What's Code 3 again? It's been 3 years since Izuku moved to America to live with his dad. Izuku's life has been so much better in the last 3 years than it has been his whole life. He had an amazing group of friends, was top in all his classes, he wasn't bullied for being smart, the teachers were all nice to him and even gave him extra work when he asked since his knowledge was past the average. Sage and Enzo started dating a year after Izuku moved there, and they were honestly perfect for each other. Craven was still his shy, quiet self, but he has opened up to Izuku over the years and talks slightly more openly now. Rue and Blake were still dating as well. They were probably the most chaotic couple he had ever come across, though. As for Rei and Izuku, they have a very close bond. In more context, Rei is lesbian and Izuku is gay. They are the only homosexual people in their friend group, so they have a closer connection to each other than the rest. However, they are still very close with the others in their group. Rei and Izuku flirt with each other. They don't really know how it started, but they never brought it up, and just continue to make flirtatious comments and give each other pet names. If you didn't know them, you would think they were a couple with how they acted. Even though Izuku was top of his classes and a more confident person than he used to be, he was still shy. He wasn't used to compliments even if he got them more often from his family and friends. He still flinches at certain touches, he still rambles about things he's passionate about, and still stutters sometimes. Even though Izuku looks a lot different on the outside, he's still the same scared, abused little boy that left Japan 3 years ago. He's just better at hiding his pain now. Speaking of Japan, Izuku's mother did report him as missing, but the investigation was dropped a couple months later. They found a puddle of blood at the bottom of a 5-story building, just no body. The cops just assumed that he had killed himself and the body was moved by someone or was eaten by wild animals. Katsuki was told that Izuku had killed himself, and for the past 3 years blamed himself for his death, and his temper only grew from there. He did get into UA though, with a goal to become the #1 hero. Over the years, Katsuki's temper was manageable, and he was slightly calmer. The key word though, slightly. Back to Izuku. He did get a haircut a couple of weeks after his school year started, but he decided he was going to grow it out again since he didn't like it that much. So his hair was past his shoulders, but almost always in a ponytail. His hair was now pretty much fully light blue, just his roots were black. His eyes were half blue, half green, and he had a lip piercing as well as an eyebrow piercing. He also had a couple tattoos. The first one he got was a group tattoo. Rei, Sage, Blake, Enzo, Craven, Rue, and himself all got matching tattoos. Izuku is now 18 and in the car on the way back home. His dad had messaged him just before school had ended, telling him to come home straight after school instead of hanging out with his friends, as he had something he needed to discuss with him, which made Izuku nervous since it was rather cryptic. Not enthusiastic like his father's texts usually were. No emojis, no exclamation marks, just one text and that was it. Once Alan had pulled up to the house and the car pulled to a stop, Izuku was out the car and unlocking the front door before Alan could even turn in the seat and bid him a goodbye. "Dad?" Izuku shouted into the house as he shut and locked the door behind himself, kicking his shoes off and dropping his bag by the door before rushing into the house to look for his father. "In here, son." His father's voice rang out. Izuku rushed into the direction of his father's voice, finding him in the living room, sat on the light grey couch with his laptop in front of him as he hunched over the coffee table. "Dad, are you okay? The text you sent was rather cryptic and so not like you. You had me worried. I thought something had happened to you. I'm glad you're okay." "Wait, are you okay? You look stressed. What's the matter?" Izuku rambled as he sat next to his father. Izuku only stopped rambling when he saw the look on his dad's face. Izuku went to ask what was wrong again, but his father spoke before he could utter a word. I got a promotion to be a heroics teacher at UA. Back in Japan, you also have an opportunity to become a student there to complete your last couple of years of school. Hisashi decided it was best if he just ripped off the band-aid and was blunt with his announcements instead of beating around the non-existent bush. It took a while for the information to sink in, and Hisashi sat there and waited for his outburst. What? There it was. Hisashi removed his hands from his ears. I haven't agreed to anything. I thought I would talk to you and get your opinion first. If you don't want to go, then I'll decline the offer, Hisashi said softly, not wanting to overwhelm his son. It's completely up to you, son. I don't mind either way, Hisashi commented after not getting a response. Izuku started quietly. Can I talk to my friends about it first? He asked, looking up at his dad. Of course you can, buddy. Thanks. Izuku stood up and made his way to the living room door. I'll see you later, he called back, and then he was gone. Izuku walked out of his house and whipped out his phone to text on his friend's group chat their names. Izuku, Dead Man Walking. Ray, Powerhouse. Rue, Miss Attitude. Sage, Queen Bee. Enzo, Tarzan. Craven, Silent Soul. Blake, see me? No you don't. The Crackhead group chat. Dead Man Walking is online. Dead Man Walking. Meet at our spot in 20. Code 3. Dead Man Walking is offline. Queen Bee +5 are online. Queen Bee. Code 3? Come on guys, we have to get to Izuku. Tarzan. Code 3? What's code 3 again? Miss Attitude. Really, Enzo? You forgot one of our codes? Miss Attitude. Again? Tarzan. Hey, I'm sorry, okay? I'll remember in the future, I'm sure of it. Miss Attitude. Sure you will. Powerhouse. Code 3 means emergency, Enzo, so we better get to Izuku fast. Queen Bee. Exactly. Izuku might already be there, so hurry up and get your asses up and to our spot. If you're not there by the time I am, I'll beat your asses to a pulp. Queen Bee is offline. See me? No, you don't. We should probably get going, shouldn't we? Tarzan. Yes, we should. I don't want to face the wrath of Sage, and she's my girlfriend, so that's saying something. Powerhouse. Hurry up, guys. I'll see you there. Powerhouse is offline. Silent Soul. See you there. Silent Soul is offline. Tarzan. Raise you there? See me? No, you don't. You're on. 2 users are offline. Miss Attitude. Really, guys? It's an emergency, not a game. Miss Attitude is offline. When the group of friends arrived, they saw Izuku pacing around the room. Their hangout spot was an abandoned building that they found 2 years ago. They cleaned it up and added some furniture and decorations, and voila! Their hangout spot was created. Izuku stopped pacing and faced the girl who had asked the previous question. Sage, thank God you're here. I need your help. It might not seem that important, but to me it is, and I'm freaking out because I don't know what to do. I don't want to let my dad down by saying no, and Izuku was rambling. It was something he would do whenever he was nervous or stressed. It's an old habit that he tried to get rid of, but I guess some old habits die hard. Izuku, honey, look at me. Sage interrupted before he could spiral too far. Izuku looked up at her. There you go. What happened? What do you need my help with? She asked again calmly. Izuku sighed and flopped onto one of the couches. My dad got promotion to be a heroics teacher? Izuku started. Hey, that's great, isn't it? Blake asked as he sat in an empty armchair, pulling Rue down with him so she was sitting on his lap. It would be great if it wasn't a promotion from UA, back in Japan, where my abusive drunk mother and bullies lived. It would be great if I didn't have to choose whether or not to agree and go be a student there and possibly see my old bullies who told me to kill myself the last time I saw him, Izuku exclaimed. Oh, not so great then? Blake mumbled. No, not so great, Izuku grumbled, slouching in his seat with his arms crossed over his chest. It was quiet for a while. Everyone had sat in their seats. Sage and Enzo were sat next to each other on one couch. Graven sat silently on a beanbag, while Ray sat next to Izuku with her legs crossed, facing him. What if I came with you? Ray suddenly spoke. Huh? Iskew's head whipped around to face her. I said, what if I came with you? I could ask my dad to let me go with you. You know my dad. He would trust your dad with my life any day. We could go to UA together, and if your old bully tries anything, I'll kick his ass, Ray exclaimed with a big grin, punching her fist into the air. I think that's a great idea, Bruce spoke up. You've always said how much you wanted to go to UA before you moved, and now you're getting the chance to. Why would you give that opportunity up? Just because some bitch-ass kid told you to kill yourself? You should go back to Japan and show them. You're no pushover anymore. You're not the same weak, quirkless kid you used to be. Bruce smiled, which was a rare sight. Show them how totally badass and strong you are. Isky was stunned into silence before he sprung up and pulled Rue into a hug, ignoring her protests. Thank you, he said into her shoulder. Rue sighed and patted his back. Alright, break it up. I want my girlfriend back. Blake stood from his chair and pulled them apart after a couple more seconds of them hugging. He pulled Rue to his chest and threw a playful glare at Izuku, who smiled and sat back in his seat and faced Ray, who was excitedly bouncing in her seat. So, when are we leaving? Chapter 6. Going back home. He was on a plane, on his way back to Japan, his old home. After 3 years of living with not having to deal with abuse or torment, he was going back to the place where it all originated from. And there was nothing you could do about it now, since he was already sat in the plane. Instead of complaining or wallowing in self-pity about his dumb choices, he decided to shove his headphones in instead and listen to music most of the plane ride over, arms crossed over his chest and looking out the window, a slight scowl on his face. Do you think he'll be okay? Ray asked Tadashi, who shrugged. We'll be by his side practically the whole time, so I'm sure he'll be fine, Tadashi told her, though he didn't sound too convinced himself. You know, Ray started after a beat of silence. He called a code 3 a few days ago when you first mentioned the whole moving thing to him. He was freaking out about moving back to Japan. Me and Rue convinced him. He's here because you know how much he hates disappointing people he loves, Ray explained with a sigh as she looked over to the grumpy boy. I wouldn't have been mad if he said he didn't want to go. I would have declined that offer in a heartbeat if he said no. He looked over to Gizu for a moment before returning his gaze to Ray. However, I do think it will be good for him. I hope you're right. They didn't talk again, both ending up falling asleep while Izuku stayed awake the whole flight. He continued to listen to music and did some sketches in his sketchbook. Once they landed, Izuku woke both Hasashi and Ray up. They collected their bags from the bagging area before heading out into the streets. It was weird for Izuku to be back here after so many years away. He didn't look much different from what he could remember, but there were more people and they all seemed like they were on autopilot. The way they moved around each other, they were all in their own little worlds, not really paying attention to anything any other than themselves. That was different. Hisashi called a cab so they could get a ride to UA. Hisashi had told them the day before that when they landed they needed to go to UA and talk to the principal, Nezu. Once they arrived, they all got out and headed towards the UA gates, where a person was standing. He had past the shoulder-length black hair and was wearing a black baggy jumpsuit and what looked to be a long grey scarf around his neck, hands stuffed in his pockets with a slouch. By the man's feet was a bear. Or a mouse? Maybe it was a dog. Ah, the #1 hero from America. His son and son's best friend. It's lovely to see you again, Hasashi. The bear, mouse, dog thing said. Hello again, old friend. Hasashi greeted with a smile. The fuck? Iski whispered, looking down at the small creature in curiosity. Ray smacked his arm hard with a huff. Ow! Jesus, what was that for? Iski asked, rubbing his arm. It didn't actually hurt, he was just being dramatic. What's your language around strangers? She said back, crossing her arms over her chest, glaring at him. Okay, Mom, he mocked, getting another hit, this time a jab in the ribs. Are you done messing around? A gruff voice rang out. They looked over to the homeless-looking man. He had one eyebrow raised and his arms crossed. He looked like he needed a nap. "Who are you?" Isk asked with a small head tilt, looking the man up and down. Why did he look so familiar? "Underground Pro Hero," the man started but was cut off by Isku. "Pro Hero Racerhead, real name Shota Aizawa, Class 3A's homeroom teacher," Isku analysed. "How did you know that?" Aizawa asked, shock evidence in his voice. "He's like crazy smart," Ray informed, slinging her arm around Isku's neck and bringing him down into a headlock, ruffling his hair. Isku struggled in her hold for a moment. She was stronger than she looked, okay? And he decided what he was going to do and wrapped his arms around her waist, lifting her off the ground. Her hold on him fell in favour of not falling, and held onto his shoulders. They were now face to face as Isku lifted her off the ground. They smiled at each other before Isku kissed Ray's forehead and put her back on the ground. His smile didn't leave his face as he turned back to look at his father, who was once again watching with amusement. He knew their weird, flirty dynamic and always found it amusing to watch. "So why are we here again?" he asked, looking up slightly to meet his father's eyes. They were similar in height. Isku was 5'11", while Hasashi was 6 foot. "We're here to see Nezu," he said with a smile and pointed to the small creature who had been watching the whole scene unfold with a wild smile. "That's quite right. Why don't you all follow me to my office where we can talk more in private?" Nezu instructed, climbing onto Aizawa's shoulders. "That's a wonderful idea. Come on, kids," Hasashi said happily as he practically skipped after the other adults. "Sometimes I wonder if he's actually almost in his 40s, Isku mumbled to Ray as they began to walk after them. "Tell me about it," Ray giggled. Once everyone was settled down in their chairs, Nezu began. "Okay, it's pretty simple actually. First, you guys will be living in dorms. Hasashi will be living in the dorm next to Aizawa. Isku and Ray, you'll be on separate floors since you are both opposite genders, but they will only be a floor down, so it's not too far as I know you both are very close," Nezu explained with a smile. "The other thing is, you have today to decorate your dorms, then tomorrow class starts. You'll be in Class 3A with Aizawa and Hasashi as your hero trainers. Sound good?" Nezu asked, taking a sip of tea. Where the fuck did he get that from? "Yes, but I have a question," Isku asked. Getting a nod in response, he continued. "What are the rules for the dorms? Like, can I smoke, or do I have to go outside or something? As you are an adult, I'll allow you to smoke freely, but please be mindful of the other students that are in the dorms. As for the other rules, your curfew is 11 p.m. No sneaking around after that. No fights, and try not to break anything," Nezu answered. "Okay, that's pretty basic. Thank you." Isku bowed his head slightly in thanks. "It's my pleasure. Now you must all hurry along and set up your dorms, then rest. You have a busy day tomorrow with classes and meeting your classmates and students." "Thank you for your time, Nezu. It was nice seeing you again." Hisashi shook his paw with a big grin. "It was good seeing you too, old friend. Now run along, Aizawa will escort you to the dorms." After they all said goodbye, they were off in the direction of the dorms. "So," Izky dragged on, "are there teacher dorms and student dorms, or is it like one big building? I've never been in dorms before, so this is interesting," asked Izky as he walked next to the sleepy hero, who in return sighed deeply. "Separate dorms," he answered in short. "Oh, okay. Can I ask you a couple questions about your quirk?" Izky questioned, walking in front of the hero backwards. Aizawa sighed. "Sure, kid." As Isku asked question after question about the hero's quirk, Hasashi and Ray watched with smiles on their faces. He seemed so happy and carefree in that moment, and they were both hoping that Hasashi was right and this was exactly what Izuku needed. That is the end of chapter 5 and 6. I hope you enjoyed. I'm hoping to post again next Sunday, but it's, again, not set in stone, so I will see you when I post next. Bye guys!